What happened when my brother-in-law kept borrowing money from everyone in the family, including me, promising to pay it back when his business took off. And after years of enabling him, I finally decided to make sure he learned what debt really feels like. My brother-in-law, Travis, had always been one of those people who could charm a loan out of a stone. He wasn't loud or aggressive about it. He was slick, smooth-talking, full of big promises, and always had a next big thing just about to happen. When I first met him, I actually liked him. He was my husband's younger brother, funny, likable, and seemingly ambitious. He talked about startups and investments like he was one call away from becoming a millionaire. He'd show up at family dinners with a new idea every month: a mobile car wash service, an app for tracking neighborhood dogs, a podcast about millennial wealth. None of them ever lasted more than a few weeks, but he always had an explanation. Investors pulled out, the timing wasn't right, the market's not ready yet, and somehow, every time, someone in the family bailed him out. At first, it was small: $200 from his mom, $500 from his sister, $1,000 here, $1,000 there. Always with the same line: "I'll pay you back as soon as I close this deal." And everyone believed him because Travis didn't look like a screw-up. He dressed well, talked well, and had that kind of unearned confidence people mistake for success. Then he started borrowing from me and my husband, Eric. The first time was right after our wedding. He pulled Eric aside after dinner. All hushed tones and big brother camaraderie. Man, I hate to even ask, but I'm in a tight spot. Just need $2,500 to cover a supplier issue. I'll pay it back in 2 weeks. Promise. Eric didn't hesitate. He always had a soft spot for his little brother. That 2 weeks turned into 3 months. Then Travis showed up again saying, "I didn't forget, I swear. Just one more deal and I'll make it right." And like idiots, we believed him. Over the next 3 years, we loaned Travis money 7 times. Sometimes a few hundred, sometimes a few thousand. It always came with a sob story: rent due, car repairs, equipment costs, delayed payments. He'd pay back small amounts here and there, $100 here, $50 there, enough to keep everyone thinking he was trying. But I started to notice a pattern. Every time we said no, he'd guilt trip us. Wow, okay, guess family means nothing anymore. Or worse, he'd go through Eric. He knew Eric's weakness, loyalty, and Eric would cave every damn time. It wasn't until last Thanksgiving that I snapped. We were hosting dinner that year. Travis showed up late wearing designer sneakers, flashing a gold watch, and carrying a bottle of $150 bourbon. "Oh, it's just a gift from a client," he said when I raised an eyebrow. Dinner was fine until dessert. That's when he dropped his new pitch. "So," he started, leaning back in his chair, "I'm launching something big. Real estate investment firm. Got some huge leads in Nashville. Just need a little liquidity to get it rolling." His eyes flicked to Eric. 10 grand. That's all I need." I nearly choked on my pie. 10 what? He smiled like he was asking for a stick of gum. 10,000. I'll double it in 6 months. Easy. Eric looked uncomfortable, but before he could open his mouth, I cut in. "No." Travis blinked. "What?" "No," I said again. "We're not doing this." "Not again." He laughed awkwardly. "Come on, Lila. Don't be like that. It's a sure thing. You said that about your dog tracking app," I shot back. "And your crypto podcast. And your import business. How many sure things does it take to realize you're just bad at this?" The table went silent. His mom gave me a warning look. "Lila, that's enough." "No, actually," I said, turning to her. "It's not. We've been covering for him for years, and he just keeps coming back for more. You all keep enabling it, and I'm done." Travis's smile vanished. "Wow. You're really going to humiliate me in front of the whole family?" I leaned forward. "You did that yourself the moment you decided to live off everyone else's money." After that, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Travis stormed out. Eric was torn, embarrassed, angry, and strangely quiet on the drive home. When we got back, he finally said, "You could have handled that better." I turned to him. "You mean not finally saying what everyone's been thinking for years?" He sighed. "He's my brother, and he's been stealing from you with a smile. Family or not, it's manipulation." He didn't answer, just went to bed. 2 weeks later, Travis texted me directly. "You didn't have to go nuclear at dinner. You made me look bad." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "I didn't make you look bad. I just turned on the lights." Then I blocked him, but I wasn't done. Because for once, I wanted Travis to actually feel the consequences of his actions, not just shrug them off and move on to the next person dumb enough to believe him. So I came up with a plan. A small, legal, satisfying plan. I started by talking to his investors. He'd bragged about them for months. His business partners, who were supposedly helping fund his next big thing. Through some mutual friends and one overly chatty cousin, I tracked them down. Turns out, his investors were just 3 family friends he'd borrowed money from under different stories. One thought he was opening a car dealership. Another thought it was a clothing line. The third thought he was starting a logistics company. They'd each given him around $5,000. None of them had seen a penny back. When I told them what I knew, they were furious. And suddenly, I had allies. Together, we started pulling receipts, texts, emails, transfers. We didn't even have to dig that deep. Travis wasn't exactly careful. He used the same phrases with everyone. "It's a sure thing. You'll double your money in 6 months. Don't tell anyone, and it's confidential." By the time we were done compiling everything, we had enough to make a pretty compelling case that he was running what looked suspiciously like a personal Ponzi scheme, and I knew exactly what to do next. Called a lawyer. Not to press charges, not yet, anyway, but to make sure what I was doing was clean. The lawyer, a calm, older man named Grant, smiled after reading everything. "He's not technically breaking a criminal law unless he's falsifying documents," he said, "but he's definitely committing civil fraud if he's misrepresenting his business. You could sue him, and so could they." I smiled. Good. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. Because Travis was about to learn what it feels like when debt comes with accountability attached. I waited 3 weeks before making my first move. You can't rush poetic justice. It has to simmer. I wanted Travis to feel safe again, confident that I was over it, that his little con was forgotten, because that's how he operated. frustrated. He thrived on people's short memories. He counted on everyone's willingness to forgive just to avoid conflict. So I played the long game. I started by pretending to thaw things over with him. I unblocked his number and texted, "Travis, let's not make this weird. It's family. Hope things are good." He responded within 5 minutes. "Yeah, all good. Sorry again for the tension at Thanksgiving." "No hard feelings?" "None," I replied. "Just want to keep the peace." And just like that, the con artist took the bait. 2 days later, he called. "Hey Lila, funny timing. I'm actually working on something new, and I wanted to run it by you and Eric. I think this one's different." Of course it was. He came over that weekend, wearing his entrepreneur uniform, crisp white shirt, expensive watch, fake humility. He showed us a glossy brochure for a company called True West Partners, LLC. The logo looked like it was made in PowerPoint. He started talking about private lending opportunities and short-term investment vehicles. It was, without a doubt, a scam. Basically, he said, "I'm matching small investors with local businesses that need short-term liquidity. Guaranteed 20% return in 6 months." I sipped my coffee and smiled. That sounds impressive. "Do you have investors already?" "Oh yeah," he said confidently. "A few, but I want family in first, you know? Keep it close." Eric was shifting uncomfortably beside me. He wanted to believe him. I could see it, that old, dangerous mix of love and guilt. "Let me think about it," I said. "Can you send me the paperwork?" He grinned. "Absolutely. I'll email it tonight." That night, I forwarded the documents straight to Grant, my lawyer. He called me the next morning, laughing. "This is Rich," he said. "He's literally recycling parts of a loan agreement template he found online. He even forgot to change the company name on one page. You can nail him for misrepresentation if he's soliciting funds." That was the green light I needed. We decided to set up a trap, one he'd walk straight into. I sent Travis an email that looked polite, professional, and a little gullible. "Hey Travis, I looked over your proposal and I'm intrigued. I might have a few friends interested too, but they'll want proof of concept. Can you send me your business registration and any existing investor agreements, names redacted of course, so I can show them you're legit?" Within an hour, he replied with a PDF labeled True West Registration Docs, and there it was, a state registration form with his name, a PO box, and, hilariously, the forged signature of an advisor who didn't exist. I cross-checked the registration online. The entity didn't even exist in the Secretary of State database. Gotcha. Grant filed the paperwork. Within a week, we had a formal complaint filed with the State Securities Commission and the Better Business Bureau. 2 of the investors he'd conned earlier joined the complaint, but that was just the legal side. I had another plan, because money wasn't the only thing Travis cared about. He cared about image. Reputation was his real currency, and I was about to bankrupt him. The family's annual Easter dinner was coming up, a big one, hosted by his mother. It was the first time everyone would be in the same room since Thanksgiving. When we arrived, the air was thick with awkward politeness. His mother greeted me a little too warmly, clearly still trying to smooth over the previous blow-up. Travis was already there, playing the part of the golden boy, laughing, joking, talking about how things were really taking off. At one point, I caught his mom whispering to Eric, "You should be proud. He's really turning things around with this new business." Oh, she had no idea. Dinner went on as usual. Casserole, small talk, fake smiles. Then, right as dessert was being served, I leaned over to Travis. "So," I said casually, "how's True West doing?" He smiled, clearly delighted that I brought it up. "Really good. Got some serious interest. Actually thinking about expanding to other states." "That's amazing," I said sweetly. "You must have gotten that sorted out with the Secretary of State then." He froze. "What?" I smiled wider. "Your business registration. I checked the state database. True West isn't listed anywhere." The color drained from his face. "Why would you even?" "Because," I said, lowering my voice, "when you email someone fake documents with forged signatures, that's called securities fraud. And I thought you'd want to know before the state investigator finishes reviewing your file." The room went silent. Forks clinked. His mother looked between us, confused. "What's going on?" I leaned back. "Maybe ask your son. He's been using fake paperwork to get people to invest in his imaginary company." Travis slammed his fork down. "That's not true. She's making this up." "Really?" I interrupted. "Then maybe you can explain why 3 of your investors signed affidavits for the Securities Commission last week." You could have heard a pin drop. Eric just stared at him, realization washing over his face in slow horror. "Travis," he said quietly, "tell me you didn't." Travis stood up, stammering. "You're all overreacting. It's not like that. It's just temporary cash flow stuff." I looked at him, calm and deliberate. "You didn't borrow money this time, Travis. You solicited investments." "That's a felony." His mother's hand flew to her mouth. His father pushed back from the table, disgusted. "Get out," his dad said flatly. Travis hesitated, looking around like someone might defend him. No one did. So he left, muttering curses under his breath, face burning red. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. "You happy now?" It was Travis. "You could have just kept your mouth shut. You didn't have to destroy me." I typed slowly. "I didn't destroy you. I just stopped you from destroying everyone else." Then I sent a screenshot of the case number from the state complaint. "By the way, the investigator says you'll be contacted next week. Good luck." And I blocked him. Again, for good this time. For the next few months, things got very quiet. He disappeared from social media. His number went dark. We heard from his mom that he'd moved to another state to get a fresh start. But then the call came from the investigator. "Mrs. Bennett," he said. I still went by my married name. "Just wanted to let you know the complaint's been escalated. Mr. Cole's been formally charged with misrepresentation of securities." "What does that mean for him?" I asked. "It means," he said, "if he's convicted, he won't be allowed to run or solicit any business for a minimum of 10 years. I thanked him, hung up. Then I poured a drink, sat on the porch, and smiled to myself. Because Travis had finally learned what debt really felt like. Not just financial debt, but the kind of moral debt you can't charm your way out of. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger to make it happen. I just told the truth. 6 months after the Easter dinner explosion, the family dynamic had completely completely changed. It was like someone had cracked the foundation of an old house and suddenly everyone could see the rot that had been there all along. No more secret loans, no more whispered, "Help him out this one last time." The silence surrounding Travis's name was deafening, not just because of what he'd done, but because everyone finally had to face how much they'd enabled him. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the villain in my own family. I felt like the one who'd finally shut the casino down. The investigation into True West Partners dragged on for months. I wasn't even following it closely at first. I had my own life to rebuild, and to be honest, I was exhausted. But every now and then, I'd get updates from the state securities office or from Grant, my lawyer. They'd found 7 victims, not 3. 7 people who'd all invested in Travis's fake business. It wasn't even the scale of the fraud that shocked me. It was the method. He hadn't used fake websites or shell companies. He'd used relationships. He'd gone to people he'd known for years, used his last name like a brand, and convinced them to trust him. A retired neighbor who'd lent him part of her pension. A family friend who'd wired him $3,000 for startup inventory. Even his godfather, for Christ's sake, who'd co-signed a loan he never paid. They all had the same story. He said it was temporary. He said he just needed a bridge loan. He said we were family. It hit me then. Travis didn't just borrow money. He borrowed belief, and he never intended to give that back. The first time Eric talked about his brother again was on a rainy afternoon in July. We were sitting in the car after grabbing takeout, the smell of pad thai filling the quiet space between us. He said softly, "You know, I can't decide if I hate him or pity him." "Why not both?" I asked. He smiled, tired. "You were right, though. About everything. I should have seen it." I looked out the window. "You couldn't. He built his life around making people like you see what he wanted them to." Eric nodded. "They're talking about sentencing next month." I raised an eyebrow. "He's not fighting it?" "No. His lawyer told Mom he's taking a plea. Probably community service and restitution." I let out a slow breath. Restitution. That'll be new for him. We both laughed. Not cruelly. Just in that weary way people laugh when irony's all that's left. In August, I got a call from the securities investigator again. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, "I thought you'd like to know the case has concluded. Mr. Cole accepted a plea deal." What did he get? 18 months probation, $5,000 in restitution payments per victim, and a permanent ban from soliciting investments or operating under a business license. I paused. So basically he's finished. Financially? Yes. Legally, he'll recover. But professionally? The investigator chuckled. "No one's hiring him after this." I thanked him and hung up, and that was it. After years of tension, manipulation, and excuses, that single call ended it. Not with shouting or revenge, but with accountability. When I told Eric, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Do you think he'll ever apologize?" I shrugged. Travis doesn't do apologies. He does damage control. Eric sighed. "You think we'll ever see him again?" I didn't answer right away, because part of me, the small, naive heart that still believed people could change, wanted to say yes. But the rest of me knew the truth. He'll show up when he needs something, I said finally. And when he does, we'll both know better this time. We didn't hear from him for nearly a year, until one afternoon, out of nowhere, he showed up at our door. It was a Saturday. I was gardening in the front yard when I heard a car pull up. When I looked up, I almost didn't recognize him. Travis had lost weight. His hair was shorter, his posture smaller. He didn't swagger anymore. He hesitated. "Hey, Lila," he said. I set down my gloves. "Travis," he gave a weak smile. "You look good. House looks good. Probation treating you well?" I asked. He flinched but nodded. "Yeah, I'm trying to do better. I just wanted to say." I raised a hand. "Don't. Whatever you're about to say, don't." He blinked. "What?" "I don't need an apology. I don't need excuses. You don't owe me words, Travis. You owe the people you scammed money. And maybe you owe your brother a little honesty. But that's not my problem anymore." He swallowed. "I get that. I really screwed things up." "Yeah," I said. "You did?" He shifted awkwardly. "Can I talk to Eric?" I nodded toward the house. "You can try, but if you're here to borrow anything, time, money, sympathy, don't." He looked hurt. "You really think that's all I want?" I tilted my head. "That's all you've ever wanted." We stood there for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly, like someone finally hearing the truth out loud. "Take care of yourself, Lila," he said quietly, and walked back to his car. When Eric came outside a minute later, Travis was already gone. "Was that him?" he asked. "Yeah." "What did he want?" "Closure, maybe. Or a test." "Did he pass?" I thought about it. For once, yeah. He didn't ask for anything. That night, Eric and I opened a bottle of wine. It felt symbolic somehow. The first drink we'd had in years without worrying about a text from Travis asking for help. "I keep thinking about what you said." Eric said. "That he borrowed belief." I nodded. He did. But he forgot that belief is the line of credit. And eventually, it runs out. Eric smiled. "I'm glad you were the one to collect." In the months that followed, word spread that Travis had moved to a small town in Arizona. He got a regular job, not CEO of True West Partners anymore, but an assistant at a hardware store. It was almost poetic. Sometimes I wondered if that life humbled him, or if he was just waiting for his next scheme. But then I realized it didn't matter. Whether he changed or not wasn't my responsibility anymore. What mattered was that the family stopped writing him checks, stopped covering for him, stopped confusing pity with love, because that's what this really was. A story about accountability, yes, but also about boundaries. You can't save people who profit from your forgiveness. A year later, on Thanksgiving, 1 year after the dinner that started it all, we sat at the same table again. This time there was laughter. Real laughter, no tension, no guilt. At one point, Eric raised his glass. "To lessons learned the hard way," I smiled. "And to debts finally paid." Everyone clinked glasses. And as I looked around that table, at a family that had finally stopped enabling the one person who treated love like a credit card, I realized something. I hadn't ruined Travis's life. He'd just finally been forced to live it. And for once, I didn't owe him anything. Not forgiveness, not empathy, not another dime. All I owed myself was peace, and I'd earned every bit of it.